What's going on? Welcome to Coach Marcus Games. I am Coach Marcus, and we are talking about episode 2 of Lanterns. Great episode. In my opinion, not as good as episode 1, but that's not a bad thing because it was still a pretty good episode. Had a couple of funny bits, and it raised my antenna a little bit. Going back, rewatching episode 1, watching and rewatching episode 2. First of all, just to know I'm back down that type of rabbit hole where I'm watching TV shows and taking notes like I'm watching a damn football game. Is crazy. But this show was that good. I did it in Westworld. I did it in Game of Thrones. I did it in Watchmen. I did it in Lost. So in my opinion, this show has that type of gravitas because it's that good so far. But this was pretty good. This was definitely pretty good, and I really liked it. I find myself going back and forth, checking on the internet, looking at the actual comic book lore, and I'm kind of gleaming other situations from that. So I think it's I don't know. I'm just really enjoying it. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about first, right? This scene right here, where Hal gets the bird. So I had to. Let me see if this will come down.
Whatever you say.
So again, I had to do some homework. I'm not really familiar with this. But what I figured out was that, and I had to look this up, lanterns that create living constructs like animals, people, stuff like that, usually it's just an illusion. But for Jon Stewart to be able to construct something as intricate as the bird, and keep it going for over 48 hours with no power in that lantern on his own, away from Hal Jordan. And you see later on in the episode, they bring that up a little bit. That is not normal. And you can see Hal Jordan's reaction that lets you know it's not normal. But Jon Stewart doesn't really realize that yet. They give you a couple of looks in the scene in the show, and Hal's like, wait a minute, how can he do that? So you get the idea like this is not normal. So that's the first thing. Then I thought, let me see, this is 9. The community meeting. You talking about me? This was just a funny scene. Everybody wants Hal to leave, which of course is throwing up red flags. The lawyer, I always forget what the lawyer's name is, but the Sheriff Kane's husband, who's basically taking orders from the father-in-law, his father. I don't know. I'm not sure how that dynamic works. I don't trust anything in this town anymore, and we'll get to that point later. But I just thought this was a funny scene. And then, of course, then we go. Then I'm gonna fast forward to Earl. I thought Earl was funny, but I didn't understand it unless they got some type of payoff later on down the line. Now, this was just after the scene where he goes in the house, big house, nothing in there, no furniture. And he gets the ring and he gets the pocket dimension and all that kind of stuff. And I talked about a pocket dimension in the earlier episode, something that can contain the ring from going back to Oa. So I thought it was funny that they established that the box, the safe or whatever, was a pocket dimension. And then, of course, I checked it with Gemini, and of course, the Green Lanterns that pulled their lantern When they got to recharge the ring, they pull it out of a pocket dimension. Now, I think sometimes in the comic, it almost looks as if the lanterns will just reach into the void in any random place and pull out of that pocket dimension and pull their lantern and recharge it. So clearly they're making it a little bit more grounded, but I thought that was very interesting. And of course, he brings the he tries on. He doesn't try on, but he looks in the mirror, and looks at the suit. So I thought that was pretty good. But ultimately, the situation with Earl, the plant monster, whatever that thing is, it has to be some type of payoff at the end of that, because it makes no sense for them to waste VFX on a scene just to say hamburgers used to be his thing. It didn't make sense. So there has to be some type of payoff later on. You know what I mean? And is that another nod to Gotham? Because we know the sheriff used to live in Gotham. And when the first episode, she was on the phone with Barbara. So they're throwing out Easter eggs all day. And could this be some type of thing? Did Hal Jordan at some point in the comics, did he used to mess around with Poison Ivy? I don't know. So we'll see. And what else we got? And let's go to 18. And I thought another funny scene, and we're talking about the alien metal detectors or alien detectors, whatever you want to call it. This whole scene was hilarious. Him going to get the bodies, dragging the bodies through the thing, messing up the car, all that kind of stuff. Although I did think, instead of him pulling off the bumper of the car or the grill of the car, why didn't he just use the crowbar? That's metal. Why wouldn't he just use that? Why did he have to pull off the whole front grill of the car? That didn't make sense to me. But in any case, so I thought that was a cool scene. That he did that while everybody was at the meeting. He steals the 3 bodies, right? And he verifies his clues on the alien detectors. I thought that was funny. And then they go back to the house, and John gets abducted. He gets kidnapped. And then there's a whole fight scene in the van, and they go through all this stuff. And clearly, when they get out of the van and the whole situation in the street, that lets you know that these dudes, whoever these dudes are a little bit above normal. And you got to give Jon Stewart a little bit of credit for holding his own against these dudes, because clearly they're not human. Good fight, running in the street. They like Aaron Pierre. They like to have him run. Maybe they're doing that Tom Cruise thing. But in any case, good fight. I'm going to guess that they weren't trying to kill him. They were just trying to get him to where he needed to be. And it looks like, and I looked this up online, everybody, they're comparing that guy to Atrocitus. So I had to look up who that was too. So we'll get into that in a minute, but we're going to get back to the sheriff. Let me see, 2030. And so this is the scene where the sheriff pulls him over. And my thing was, how does she know where he was? And clearly she's not surprised with the bodies in the car. And she says it as much in the dialogue. So clearly the whole town is being surveilled. She knew that he had went through the alien detectors and all that kind of stuff. She knew that had happened. She knew about pulling the bodies. So obviously the whole town is being surveilled. And then again, that leads me to believe something's going on with the whole town. So this was a funny scene too. She trying to keep things together, but I'm still curious as to why she agreed to go to the father-in-law's house. That was interesting to me. I think that she might be given, what's her Sheriff Carrie. That's her first name, Carrie. Is she giving information to the father-in-law or vice versa? I don't know. Or is the father-in-law just giving out orders to everybody and she's just a figurehead? That's what we probably gonna end up figuring that out. And then of course, and you go up to when he gets to the ranch, basically Hal gets shot just because he running his mouth.
Work here's done. Oh, I just need a minute.
You know what I mean? So that's what he get for running his mouth. She said, let her do the talking, and he just kind of disregarded that. And it's also interesting that I don't know if she allowed this to happen, but that whole dynamic between her and the father-in-law is weird. Because clearly he's calling the shots. So that was a weird thing. But yeah, Hal's running his mouth. And then, of course, did they know the ring didn't have enough power after the explosion in the jail? But old boy right here, he gave them plenty of warning. And I guess maybe he just forgot that there was no power in the lantern. Or maybe he just wasn't thinking about it and they caught him off guard before he had a chance to bubble up. I don't know. But yeah, he got shot. That's what you get for running your mouth, Hal. All right, now we get to Anton. Anton is the leader of the dudes that kidnapped Jon Stewart. And they let him know, like, the whole situation. Like, they know about the bird. Now, when you look online and stuff like that, they refer him as possible Atrocitus, because in the comics, Atrocitus is the leader of the Red Lanterns, and he's got a beef with the Guardians because they created the Manhunters that destroyed his planet. So that's where his beef is coming from, if that is even him. But all kind of signs are going into that direction. So, but this was a good one, and they put the imprint on him. They let Stewart know that they understand and recognize what that bird means. And they let him know, like, dude, do you know how hard this is? So that was an interesting point. So they understand who Jon Stewart is and what he can do. They just don't know that him and Hal Jordan really ain't that close. And then we go to, let me see, we go to 34. So now we back in the hospital. John's waking up from getting shot, passed out, whatever. Hadn't been there long. And the sheriff calls him out, like, who is Sinestro? You've been talking in your sleep. And he's all embarrassed and surprised and like, what did you know? And then she pulled up all this information, like it's right there on Wikipedia. And I couldn't figure out if she just went on the internet and found out this information or she had his phone. I couldn't figure that part out because she was just on there like, hey, it looks here that you did this, this, and this. And I'm like, where you get this information from? Because I would guess that all of that information about him and what he did, because he didn't want to talk about it. So I guarantee that he didn't think she knew. So again, where is she getting this information from? It's got to be from the father-in-law. So then we look at 38. They checking out the hospital, and Hal realizes nobody's in the hospital. All the equipment ain't being used. So what's going on? And then I started thinking immediately when I saw this scene, nobody checked in. All of the equipment is still covered up. This whole town is aliens. Now, I don't know if they're good guys, bad guys, or just what? Like Men in Black, they just landed and this is their little home. But this whole town might be aliens. Because something's going on, because that don't make no sense. And they put too much effort to let you know that he figured that out. So it has to mean something. They're not gonna put that in there. Yes, it could be a red herring, but that makes me think like the whole town, they got all the computers and all that kind of stuff, and ain't nobody in the town sick. That don't make no sense. So, and then finally we get to Zoe. And Zoe is the leader in the clubhouse for being the Manhunter. That's what everybody thinks. So I don't know whether she is or not, but at the end of the day, she's got all this information. She's got to be running to her husband again, giving this information. And how does she know he was going to be there? And that's why I think that everything is being surveilled. Everything is being surveilled. So, but that's the leader in the clubhouse. Zoe is who I would think that is the manhunter. But at the same time, her being the manhunter is way too obvious. They set her up way too early in the show. I mentioned that before. That was the one thing about the last episode that I didn't like. Jon Stewart should have picked up that she was some type of plant or some type of spy or something, because she came on to the game too easy and he keep running his mouth. So I didn't understand that at all. But she's too obvious. She's the obvious choice to be the mole or to be the manhunter. But if she turns out to be, everybody's going to say, I knew it was her. But that's not going to be, that wouldn't be a gut punch. If a gut punch would be if the sheriff turned out to be the manhunter, because she acting like a good guy and she trying to get Hal out of there. So I don't know. And I think, and it wouldn't, if the manhunters can turn themselves into anything and shapeshift, why couldn't it be the kid? Why couldn't it be her son? That would be a gut punch, or her husband. That would be, I don't think that would be a gut punch, but that would be a twist because he's non-threatening, so you're not expecting it. So we'll see what they do. But at the end of the, but I did want to put this. John mentions that her husband is very, very weird. And her response was, how can you, John says, and you're not like that. And her response is, how can you be so sure? So again, they thrown out obvious flags, and a part of me is saying that's a little bit too obvious. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But at the end of the day, I thought it was a phenomenal episode, a lot of fun. And I'm going to keep watching because it tends to get better and better. And of course, almost forgot, we got the very last scene is your boy Sinestro. 49, where we at? That's the very last scene, Sinestro in the building. So now when Jon Stewart mentioned the Manhunters, Hal Jordan pops up like, where'd you hear that from? And then he tells him everything that Anton told him. And then you realize Hal Jordan don't know much of nothing either. So of course he flies off. He gets dressed in the uni. He flies off. He goes to the prison. And this is how the episode ends. So the next episode should begin with him talking to Sinestro. And Sinestro says that the Manhunters are the second biggest threat, and Jon Stewart being the first. Not quite sure what that means yet. I got some ideas and insinuations, but we'll wait to see what next week brings. So guess what? Great episode. Loved it. This show was fire. Again, this show puts me in the category of Game of Thrones and Westworld and all of that type of stuff, man. I'm into it like that. Obviously, I'm taking notes and can't wait to the next episode. So we're going to see what happens, man. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to Coach Marcus Games, and we're going to keep this thing moving. See y'all next week for episode 3.